Right. Streaming. It has just become profitable, apparently, for basically every single streamer. We're going to take a look at this Deadline article, mainly because I've been one of those individuals, not an anti-streamer. I quite like streaming services. But I've been one of those people that have said streaming just isn't the future. Like, it can't sustain itself because you can't, in terms of, let me quantify this, streaming will never replace theatres. It's okay as a supplement, but it will never replace theatres. And it just can't, because you can't make a $200 million movie and then just give it to streaming. Like, it's never going to be successful that way. You can't generate the profit. And this, I think, is interesting. I mean, the fact that in 2025, or the end of 2025, after years and hundreds of millions of dollars, they've only just become profitable is fairly evident of my point, I guess. And I've been one of those people that have said, hey, actually, the only people that won the streaming wars were those that didn't participate. You know, Sony, for instance. Sony just sells stuff to other companies. Who's the others? Lionsgate, they just sell stuff. You know, they make money that way. E1, although I think that's probably been bought now, I think. Legendary just sells stuff. Anyone that hasn't participated hasn't had this, what is effectively like quite a big noose around their neck. You know, these streaming services are expensive. So let's dive into it. Let's have a look. This is an article on Deadline, and I just thought it was interesting. So as they say, after more than 5 years of gushing red ink, that means not profitable. After 5 years of not being profitable. If that was any normal business, guys, any normal business, 5 years, you'd be like, whoa, okay, that's an issue, right? That is an issue. But it says, you know, 2025 was the year when streaming across the board started to turn a profit. And as they say here, there are caveats attached to that statement. LOL. NBC Universal's Peacock is still making losses. Brilliant. Apple TV's economics are impossible to disentangle from its trillion-dollar parent company. So that's the other thing, right? Apple TV Plus, for instance. That is something which you're never actually going to know if it is successful, because it's just part of the business as a whole. It's not sort of like its own separate thing, kind of. It's just the business. And so when you look at it like that, you're like, right, okay, is that part of a tax break then? And that's what a lot of people were thinking, that Apple TV Plus's stuff was just a tax break situation. It was, can we offload a bunch of money so we don't have to pay as much in tax? I mean, I'm not saying it is the case. I'm saying it makes sense. So with that long-sought economic maturity has come greater scrutiny of the balance sheet. Although they sometimes feel like streaming is the only arena that counts, a recent report from Morgan Stanley media analyst noted that spending on linear TV remains about double that on streaming, which is, I mean, that's mad. But gone are the days of the fire hose of content. Even the sector leader Netflix has held the line on content expenses of late. But it does go to show, right, like how everything is slowing down. So it's interesting. Like, it is interesting. So in 2026, Morgan Stanley predicts streaming market repair will be a key phrase across the sector as corporate spin-offs and continued cord cutting are rapidly shrinking legacy TV as an investment factor. So streaming remained a headline grabber this year, even before a game-changing deal centering on the assets of Warner Brothers Discovery, with Netflix and Paramount both in hot pursuit as of this writing, was finalized. Disney launched a beefed-up new ESPN app, which blends linear feeds from more than a dozen of its networks with a range of streaming-only fare. Fox Corp, for similar strategic reasons, launched its own flagship Fox One. And while profits and losses are probably the ultimate measure of success, the metrics of streaming underwent a rethink this year, with Netflix and Disney announcing plans to phase out quarterly reports of subscriber numbers. Well, I wonder why. Revenue per user, engagement, and other metrics are now on vogue. though success or failure in streaming, as ever, is subject to interpretation. So do you see how interesting that is, right? Netflix and Disney have gone... Well, Netflix has all the subscribers, so they don't really care. But Disney specifically, I think, is interesting. They've gone, well, we're not talking about subscriber numbers anymore. We're going to talk about revenue per user. Right? We're going to talk about engagement. Okay, that's fascinating. That is fascinating. It goes to show, I think, personally, that their numbers just aren't generally that great. Now, that doesn't stand up when it comes to Netflix, because Netflix is everywhere and has a lot of subscribers. So them just deciding to not do reports, it's not really the same as Disney, but it is interesting. So we'll look at this now anyway, but below in alphabetical order are the top streaming players and Deadline's view about how they fared. Right? So Apple TV. Interesting. So what do they say? Well, Severance, the show returned for its second season. Quickly became both a critical and cultural darling. 27 Emmy nominations. Won 8, including Outstanding Lead Actress. Lowlight, the streaming era has brought about many conundrums. And one that it appears has confounded multiple media companies is what the heck to call their service. While not nearly as egregious as the HBO Max debacle, Apple TV quietly rebranded this year too. Removing the plus. Oh, I've just been seeing... Oh, yeah, okay. Well, I've been calling it Apple TV Plus still. Due to its apparent confusion it caused. The problem, it only created more confusion, given that Apple TV is also the name of the streaming hardware it sells. Amazing. So, challenge for 2026. Well, they admitted in October the streamer has experienced a few setbacks that have left it a little further behind. Brilliant. Subscriber numbers. They've got 45 million subscriber numbers. That's crazy high. That's really good. It's not bad anyway. Not bad at all, really. Now, Apple is still a small potato in the streaming world, as they say, but 45 million, it's not bad. It's not bad. In terms of the overall content that they offer, though, yeah, 45 million, the amount of money they're channeling into it, yeah, not great, actually, when you look at it that way. Disney Plus. Low light. Because their highlights are just about ESPN and things like that. But the low light, although it wasn't exclusively related to streaming, Disney's decision to temporarily pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air while facing pressure from the Trump admin was a low light for a democracy. I mean, it's a company, it's not a democracy, but all right, whatever. May have had a negative effect on public perception of the company across the board. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel was the reason why public perception of Disney's gone down, but all right. So whatever. Yeah, and they don't really mention much. Again, their highlights are a bit low level. But they say this: challenges, stay in consumers' good graces. Brilliant. And talk about AI a little bit as well. Biggest question for 2026. Disney isn't the only company to tease AI-generated content might soon be available on its streaming platforms. But it certainly has the biggest IP to work from in that regard. Yeah, I mean, there is that. HBO Max. HBO Max. Well, we can sort of go through all of this, but it's not... they talk about low-light rebranding fiasco of Max. Going back to HBO Max, while senior executives gamely tried to own the mistake while revealing the revamp at the company's upfront presentation last May, still belongs in the corporate annals next to the new Coke and Quickster. Yeah, it's pretty dumb, but all right. And then they're being sold anyway, so who knows what's going to come from HBO Max. Who knows? Netflix, pretty crazy. So they had sing-along movie, 19.2 million. That is that K-pop Demon Hunters. So not too bad, but it would have been more if they, left it out in theatres a little bit longer. And then video game course correction. So they're not doing their game thing now is they're sort of trying to go back from making games or something. It was very bizarre, very, very bizarre. But challenge. Well, they're obviously trying to buy Warner Brothers for $82.7 billion. So we'll see what happens with that, I guess. Paramount Plus. Well, they lost Taylor Sheridan, so that's a pretty massive deal. And if they don't have Taylor Sheridan moving forwards, they don't really have anyone. He's still got 3 years left, obviously. But the fact that he's gone, I mean, he was single-handedly keeping Paramount Plus alive. So they're going to have to replace him with someone. Peacock, I don't even know what they make, but who cares? But this is, I mean, this to me is all very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. The fact that Prime Video only has 70 million viewers globally. Like, and yeah, I looked at Apple TV and said 45 was, looked quite high. I mean, it's, yeah, 70 million for Prime Video. You'd think Prime Video, something which has been around for a long time, would have more, personally. So, especially a company as well that now owns MGM. So that's interesting. But there you go. Apparently, everyone had become successful. Which, yeah, maybe. I doubt it. I think that there's some Hollywood accounting going on here. But the fact that it's taken years to get profitable, I mean, that's a bad sign, isn't it? That is a bad sign. And I find this just interesting. I find it very, very interesting, especially that reveal that they're no longer going to be reporting subscriber numbers. I think that's quite telling. I think that is quite telling. So streaming is definitely not the future, obviously. I think that's patently obvious now. Been proved many times over. But it is interesting nonetheless. So that's it. I just wanted to talk about it. Take care. Bye-bye now.